What is something that creative people get wrong about making content that actually makes sales?
Wasting a lot of time, wasting a lot of energy and like a lot of resources on making the videos pretty. Sure, there's definitely a time and a place for that, but that's not something that's gonna guarantee results.
What about the brands themselves?
Like 1000%.
For people that don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a bit of backstory about you?
So basically started freelancing as a video editor like 5 years ago. Then I quickly realized I could be doing the exact same things inside Ecom niche. And that's how I started making ads. Within that kind of period, I also met my current partners, Spencer and Sean. Currently, I'm building a marketing agency with them, and that's kind of where most of my time is being spent. Everyone is kind of talking about volume, volume, volume. You need to test more, 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 and more. The biggest problem that I see them making is just like mindlessly testing without knowing what are they actually testing. What we did and what we are doing is complete opposite direction, which is, if I could give like one piece of advice to any e-commerce brand owner out there right now, is invest in your team. Specifically when we're talking about creatives, like all they're trying to do is get the cheapest prices, get the cheapest editors, just try to cut down costs. That's actually costing them much more money in returns.
That's some really good advice, but what's some overhyped advice that you hear a lot in the ad world right now?
Overhyped advice? That's a good question.
What do you say to people when they ask you what do you do for a living?
I just say I do marketing. It, it
Nice.
it depends, because like if you're asking for those type of people, who are just like, living next to me and they kind of don't know what's going on online and they're not aware of, like all the opportunities, I just say, oh yeah, I do marketing online, that type of thing. But if actually someone is, a bit more sophisticated and understands, like the stuff that's happening online, then I actually try to explain what I do. But yeah.
You basically find the awareness level first, and then you change your messaging.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you basically run up your own agency with a team. I remember I saw a picture of it. It was like you had your own office. It was pretty
Mm.
cool. A lot of people actually dream a lot of having that, but you since left that and work with these guys. Can you talk a little bit about that time when you ran your own agency?
Yep.
Like, what did it feel like?
Yep.
And just kind of paint the
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. So basically, I was kind of running. So like, honestly, you can't even call it an agency. I know like the term is like very popular nowadays. Like content agencies and stuff like that. And like the only thing that is kind of happening is editors are outsourcing work to other editors, and that's kind of that's the thing now. That's kind of what I was doing, honestly. So I had a lot of demand, like a lot of e-commerce brands wanted to work with me to like make ads for them. So what I did is I was kind of focusing on like the strategy side of things. So like writing scripts, writing copy, managing the clients, doing the research, and that type of kind of work. And then I just started hiring editors under me to actually do the work. But the problem with that was, and I was doing very good. I was like making comfortable 5 figures a month. I don't like to disclose like exact amount, because I don't want to talk about only about money. But what I realized within that period is I just didn't know how to like deliver results to clients. So like the only kind of thing I was doing and the only thing I was delivering was actually, creatives. And that was it. We just kind of send them, like 10 ads a week, and that's it. They test it, and then that's where the story ends. And I was like,
Yeah.
there's definitely much more to this, and there's definitely, something that, I'm kind of missing. And I started kind of going into the rabbit hole of marketing, paid advertising, and I realized like how much leverage you actually have if you can actually guarantee results to your clients, which is what I wasn't doing. Like my results were creatives, and that was it. And so I basically realized, okay, I still don't know shit. I don't know how to scale an e-commerce brand. I don't know how to like. I wasn't familiar with the entire funnel. So like, what happens when someone clicks on the ad? Like the landing pages and like kind of the back end of it, if that makes sense. And within that period, that's when I met Spencer. I kind of connected with him through Upwork, out of all places.
Yeah.
That was quite funny. So basically, like he and Sean, they were doing a similar thing, but they were doing it on a bit higher level. And what they were missing is basically kind of the creative system and creative aspect that I had with my own agency. And so I kind of figured out,
Mm.
okay, these guys are, like super, super smart. They do this on like a higher level. They were actually working with, 7, 8 figure brands. And it's just like, in my head it made sense. Okay, let me just like, drop all of this, kind of let it fizzle out, and just go full time with these guys and help them build the agency and help them build the creative system that I have, because my strengths were creatives. I was very good at making creatives, delivering creatives, but I didn't know like the overall aspect of actually scaling an e-commerce brand, and they did. And so I decided to basically combine the knowledge with them, if that makes sense. And instead of just
Yep.
delivering creatives, actually focus on scaling e-commerce brands and actually delivering results to businesses and actually making some kind of impact. So that was the biggest reason why I kind of decided to make the switch, and why I decided to um, focus on getting results. And from there, basically my biggest focus and like everything I'm focusing on is just like getting results for our clients, and actually having the knowledge and having the skills to just like make an impact and to actually grow businesses basically through marketing.
That's beautiful. So basically, at the point where you were going from I just make videos and images to I want to get results for clients, you met Spencer and Sean, and that's when you guys combined forces, and now you have what is like the fastest growing ecom ads growth agency and community as well
Yep.
on school. Aren't you like the second biggest or the biggest
Biggest
on
I
school?
think it was biggest
There you
for
go.
I think quite a while. I think last few weeks I think it was number one again, but yeah. It's
Nice. That's
been
awesome.
yeah, it's been going super super well. But yeah, that was honestly the biggest change. Like just stop focusing on just like cash grabbing and just like outsourcing work and collecting like the in between, and actually focus on getting results. So that was the biggest thing
I
for
like
me.
that. Yeah, the biggest fear I think in for a lot of creators in the creative space is I don't know how to actually turn the cool things I make into stuff that gets
Mm,
a client results.
yeah.
And so what was maybe two big discoveries that you made in that transition phase from going, okay, I'm a creative person to I'm now somebody that is going to change this ecom brand's life and scale it.
Um. So I think the biggest things is one, again, kind of focusing on the client and on yourself. So instead of focusing okay, like what can I do to like I don't know, just like deliver this and just like, move on to the next client. Like the mindset shift was from that to focusing on what can I do to make this client as much money as possible. So like
Mm,
that's like the biggest thing, and that's like the biggest, mindset shift that you need to make. Like you can take, for example, like a video editor. Like video editors can, make they can make videos for I don't know, someone's personal brand, and then like the creator posts that on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube Shorts, whatever, and they get views. Okay, and that's your leverage. You can generate views for them, and then what happens is you get a lot of different editors. Like competition gets bigger, like, and everyone's kind of starts dropping their prices, and it's like it just becomes like impossible to compete,
right to the bottom.
and so your leverage just becomes lower, and then like things you can do is one, you can work faster than anyone else. So that's your leverage then. Or you can do more than everyone else. That's your leverage. But that just becomes like, like a rat race. You're just like competing with, like thousands, like tens of thousands of other people, which is kind of doesn't make sense. And I kind of figured that out um pretty early in my kind of creative journey, if that makes sense. And then I realized, okay, I found this kind of different forms of leverage. So like bigger leverage would be if you're still making videos for someone, but now you're guaranteeing them maybe they'll book calls from like the YouTube videos that you edit for them. Okay, so like that's like a step higher. Okay, and then like the
Yep.
biggest step that you can make, or at least that I found, and like that's worked for me. I'm not saying this is the only way, to make money online or to just like develop as a creative person. That's what worked for me, and that's what I'm kind of teaching others, and that's what I'm kind of talking about. But like the biggest form of leverage and the biggest thing that you can do is when you actually impact how much money like your clients and like the business on the other side makes, which is through paid advertising, and you're still editing videos, you're still designing images, but then e-commerce brands through paid advertising test those images. They actually, spend money on those images. If the ads are good, they generate them more money, and you as a creative person, you directly impact how much money they make. So, I figured that out. Like I said, pretty early, that was like a, big kind of mindset shift for me because I realized, oh, I
Yeah.
could still be doing this creative stuff. I could still be, in my kind of creative zone because I like doing, before I liked doing video editing. I was doing a lot of video editing. I was doing a lot of design myself. I was always kind of a creative person. And then when I realized I can pair that knowledge, like pair those kind of creative skills with marketing and with kind of marketing knowledge, that's when like the growth really happens. So yeah, that's kind of like a short kind of journey overview when it comes to that.
No, that makes total sense. We'll actually get into talking about video editors because I know that's a big focus that you are on right now in training editors.
Yep.
But what is what is something that creative people get wrong about making content that actually makes sales, actually gets
Mm.
conversion? What's something that they get wrong?
Um, Something that they get wrong is um I would say probably focusing on maybe kind of doing clickbaity stuff, maybe just like focusing too much on like editing like fancy animations, wasting a lot of time, wasting a lot of energy and like a lot of resources on making the videos pretty, making the videos, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like retention optimized, if that makes sense. Just like adding,
Yeah,
like a shit ton of like animations inside, like sound effects, VFX, whatever you want to call it. But that's not really what moves the needle, and that's like ultimately not what you should be focusing on. Sure, like there's definitely a time and a place for that, but that's not something that's gonna guarantee results. What's gonna guarantee
yeah,
results is, like going deeper on like marketing side of things, like actually having the knowledge. What do I actually have to say, like to these people to get them to buy this stuff, like, or what type of visuals, do they actually respond to? So like I would say, just having the skill of choosing the right clips that you include in the video ads, for example, is much more important than, what style of captions, like what style of animations do you use within the video, if that makes sense. So kind of
yeah.
sum that up, not focusing on, um, editing aspect that much, but like actually having the knowledge of marketing and actually understanding, okay, what do I need to do and what do I need to say in order for this person to, buy this product. So
That makes sense. So it's really just diving into the psychology, the marketing
exactly,
knowledge that most creators they just skip out and they just focus on making something look prettier, looking nicer.
exactly.
What about what about the brands themselves? Like what's a mistake that they keep making that actually keeps you in business?
Um, so you're kind of asking in terms of like creatives, marketing, ads.
Yeah, or like even just with the whole marketing strategy, or something that they always make do wrong. Every time a client comes to me, they're always doing the same stuff. They're either spread very thin, or not testing enough, or testing the wrong things. Like, what about you? What do you always see?
So what I see happening is, um, so there's actually kind of two problems that I see happening. One is kind of on their like internal like system side of things of how they test ads, which is like a lot of e-commerce brands, they just like look for other brands, like look at other brands for inspiration. They just kind of open like an ad library, and they kind of look at, oh, this competitor is doing this, let me rip that, let me take that script and just like, run it as my own. And what they do is, like everyone is kind of talking about volume, volume, volume. You need to test more, 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 and more. You just need to, push out more and more creatives. But at the end of the day, if you have that approach, what happens is, sure, you can test hundreds of creatives. Sure, you will find a winner, like eventually you'll find one winner. That's gonna, like scale maybe like a little. And then when that ad stops working, the problem is you don't know why it was working. You don't know uh, what was the reason behind it. And you just kind of go back to spam testing like a lot of creatives again, and it's like a cycle that you kind of depend on finding those winners through testing through volume. Okay. So like that's a
Yeah.
problem that everyone does. And kind of what we did and what we are doing is like going complete opposite direction, which is testing less volume but more intent. Which is like one huge focus that we had last year, and kind of going into this year, and just like kind of continue pushing that way, is testing less, but every single ad that we test, we know exactly what we're testing. Like what are we trying to do with this ad? Who is this ad, targeting? Who is this ad going towards? And when we find a winner with this approach, we know exactly why it's working. We know exactly. We kind of, when we look at it, we have hundreds of other ideas that we could do based on that winning ad. And it's basically a system and approach that just helps you get better, and you just get more understanding of your customers, more understanding of your market and your brand as a whole, when you take this approach, because you actually know, and you actually grow, and you actually learn marketing, and you learn about your customers along the way, if that makes sense. So the
Yeah.
biggest problem that I see them making is just like mindlessly testing and pumping out ads without closing the feedback loop, and without knowing what are they actually testing.
Yeah, the feedback is such an important thing because sometimes I see somebody, I go on their ad account and I'm like, cool, so what's working? They're like, I don't actually know what's working. That this has good ROAS, this
Yeah,
doesn't. Do you know why? And so rather than just kind of throwing random stuff, seeing what sticks, you're going, okay, cool. In this test, we're gonna test this avatar versus that avatar, or we're gonna test this UGC creator versus that curator. And then so you actually know what you're treating it like a science, basically.
exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. That's like one thing. I don't know. You kind of I mentioned like two things that they kind of make. So that's one thing, and then the other thing is like not investing in their team. This is
Mm,
like, this is probably,
huge.
if I could give like one piece of advice to like any e-commerce brand owner out there right now, is invest in your team, and actually train your team, develop your team, invest not only money, but like invest your time, invest your resources, try to like expand your team's skill set and knowledge, because like a lot
Yeah.
of e-commerce brand owners, when they're specifically when we're talking about creatives, like all they're trying to do is like get the cheapest prices, get the cheapest editors, like just try to cut down costs, but that's actually costing them much more money in returns. If they actually found that one person who is an A player, and who like actually understands creative strategy, who actually understands all this stuff that we're talking about, like if you find that person, if you actually treat them well, and if you actually like allow them to grow with your business and within your business, that can have like like insane ROI. And like instead of
Insane.
that,
Yeah.
everyone is just like um, just trying to
Maximizing profit.
yeah, trying to lower prices, and not focusing on like building an actual team in house, which is like just super important.
I agree, and I think they also need to invest trust into these people. A lot of people
Mm,
like they don't trust them enough and go, "Oh, you need to make yourself worthy." But
mm,
most people, if you look at like a regular job, like when I used to be an engineer, they just put me and they were like, "Okay, we trust you to write this fire
mm,
report, and then obviously we'll check it afterwards."
yeah,
If they didn't, then I wouldn't have learned. I would have been put into that situation. Some editors, some graphic designers, they need to feel like you trust them to just try their best,
yep.
and then from there you spend the time and you invest the money in them. So definitely that's like that's some really good advice. But what's some overhyped advice that you hear a lot in the ad world right now?
Um, Overhyped advice, like 1000% use AI for every single thing within your business.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably like the thing that like a lot of people are jumping on. Like GPT-5 came out like last week or this week, I can't even remember. And like I had a lot
Yeah.
of people asking me questions, like, oh, did you try GPT-5, what do you think about it? And I'm like, bro, it came out yesterday. I didn't have time to test out GPT-5. And I just feel like people are like sitting and like refreshing X, and just like waiting for something new to pop out so they can jump on it, so they can test it, and so they can get the new hope of like achieving their goals, if that makes sense. But
100%.
like you can't, like, AI is basically I can't remember who said this, but it's like a very good point. So AI doesn't raise the floor, but it raised the ceiling type of thing. So someone who didn't know how to do marketing, someone who didn't know how a great ad looks like before AI, AI is not gonna help, because AI basically allows you to 10x your output that you have right now as a marketer. But if your current output is shit, your output with paired with AI is going to be even more shittier, if that makes sense. So definitely,
100%.
just like jumping on AIs, I would say, is definitely like the most overhyped advice right now.
Definitely. It's like when I was in school, you had the scientific calculators, but if you give it to someone who doesn't even understand the formulas, it doesn't matter. They're not
Yeah,
gonna know how to use or
exactly, bro.
differentiate.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a great analogy. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's dive into the video editing space,
Hmm.
because one of the first things I recommend any brand is you need to have a very good editor.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a editor creative recession right now. I think a lot of editors are trying to get clients, make some money. They see it as this cool thing they can do, and they get on the charge and they hate it and they don't want to continue. And I see this a lot in my editing
Hmm.
community with 700 editors. They come in, they get burnt out for like low cost or whatever.
Hmm.
So I think why don't we just start with the skill set of an editor? What makes a good editor for making ads?
Um, that's a good question, and it's funny that you say video editing recession. Oh, that's so funny. I think just want to touch on that. I think video editing recession is happening because everyone is trying to do the exact same thing, like I said before, and it's just like
Yeah,
insane competition across the board. So like people are just like getting way underpriced, way undervalued for the skills they have, and it's
yeah,
honestly it's a bit sad, and I actually feel
yeah,
sad because of it, because like these editors actually invest a lot of their time, a lot of their energy, like into actually making creative videos. And at the end of the day, that still is like a skill set that not everyone has, and that is not easy to get. Like for example, I have zero knowledge on like After Effects and on animations and stuff like that. And like when I see these people are making like these crazy animations that are doing like all this kind of crazy work, it just looks sick. And then they basically, like, everyone online is trying to lower their prices because they're just video editors. I just hate that culture, and I don't know, it just makes me sick a bit. But yeah, I feel like
yeah.
the main kind of the core issue that's happening is everyone is trying to do the exact same thing. And that's why kind of um there's just too many people competing for the same thing is the problem. But
I agree.
yeah,
They need to stand out somehow. So how do they stand out? How do they become a good editor that they can stand out?
yeah, yeah. So specifically for ads, like video editors, like core skill that you need to have, which like a lot of video editors don't even touch, is just like mastering marketing fundamentals and just like
Oh, true.
educating yourself on marketing. Just like just grab a marketing book, whatever you can find. It's good, like any knowledge is good knowledge. You're gonna figure out how to apply it. And just like grab a book, read about marketing, read about psychology, read about how to make people do stuff, how to make people like feel something. And then you have to start thinking about how you can transition that knowledge within the video ads that you're making and within the video ads that you're doing. And how can you visually communicate all of those things, but through video. Like that's like it's a very specific skill that you need to have. But yeah, I would say like that's the number one thing that's overlooked. Everyone's just focusing on making the actual videos, but not a lot of people focus on actual marketing skills. And that's like essential if you want to make video ads.
I totally agree. And you know what? The definition of the word editing is, I'm pretty sure if you Google it, it says something about correcting and deleting parts of a video or media.
Hmm.
So like taking stuff out is just as important as adding stuff in.
Mm,
And so if you consume the marketing knowledge like you're saying, they will know, oh, this stuff here, we need to take it out,
yeah,
rearrange it so that it brings curiosity and whatnot. And then that's gonna help them so much.
yeah, that's a very good point. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your what's your biggest pet peeve? Because I know you've worked with editors. when you had your agency, and obviously now you're working with so many, and also you're training a lot. What's your biggest pet peeve when working with editors?
Oh, that's actually a very good question. That's a very good question. You caught me off guard there. Um, hmm. I'm not very like I don't have that much issues with our editors at agency. I'm like very grateful for them because like honestly, like our agency right now wouldn't be where it is without our editors. We constantly say that. We're like very, very
Nice.
grateful for our editors, as we should be. But like, the biggest thing that kind of annoys me with editors is just like not communicating enough, you know? I would say that's probably like the number one thing. So like from like a client perspective, that could be just like, not communicating what you're doing, if maybe you'll get your work delayed, for a few hours for a day, just like communicate that, don't just like, kind of be in the shadows, if that makes sense. I would say yeah, just like number one thing is, just like communication and um just like yeah, communicate properly with the team and with your
But how,
clients
how
and
much is how much is too much communication? Like, I think a lot of editors might be like, "Oh, I don't want to bother the client.
mm,
I don't want to annoy them." Like, what's that happy middle ground?
I would say when anything major happens, make sure you let your clients know. And then like if you don't know something, for example, just ask them, instead of making
Don't be
assumptions
afraid.
and instead of, just like doing something random and just like,
Totally agree.
trying to guess, if that makes sense. Just like ask your clients, ask your team members, ask someone, and just like communicate it, because that's going to save your revisions, that's going to save your time, that's going to save clients time, it's going to save everyone's time. If you just like drop a message to someone on Discord or on Slack, ask them, you get that back in 5 minutes, and you save maybe like in total multiple hours, if because if that thing then has to get changed later on, that's gonna take, like a while, and then until they send it back and they review it, whatever. But just like communicating stuff and asking for things when you're not sure is probably like the biggest thing.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
That's good. So I guess we talked about the editing recession. We talked about that there's not a lot of editors. Well, why did you actually start Ecom Talent?
Um, So the reason why I started Ecom Talent, for people who don't know what Ecom Talent is basically a community where I teach video editors, graphic designers, complete beginners how to get into ecom space and how to start working with e-commerce brands, how to start making ads for e-commerce brands, how to get clients for e-commerce brands, how to get clients basically. Why I started was because we started scaling our agency. We started getting a lot of clients. It's kind of a lot of brands wanted to work with us, and our only bottleneck were video editors. We didn't have enough editors. And we were hiring for a few months. We couldn't find any good editors. We were finding a lot of editors who had a lot of technical knowledge, so they were very good, at animations, like editing, cutting clips together. That was, very nice. But no one like, and when I say no one, I literally mean no one had any understanding of marketing, of psychology, of like, how to actually make videos that, one first capture someone's attention and then second make them buy the product. So like no, that was non-existent. And I was like, fuck
Mm,
this. I'm tired of this because I was like, hopping on calls because I was actually the one responsible for hiring editors. I was hopping on
yeah.
calls, I was wasting my time, and it was just like it was tiring. And I decided, okay, fuck this. Let me build a training that's gonna be so good, that's gonna be so in depth that any video editor can go through it and they'll be able to work as a creative strategist, work as a like video editor for ads specifically, which is what I did. And I decided to kind of cultivate talent and collect people that way. And then obviously when we need to hire, we just kind of hire someone from within the community. So that was the whole idea and the
Yeah.
whole plan. And it worked out great. So
That's awesome. It's kind of that. I think there's a new trend going on of like you building your own talent pool. Because
mm,
like for us with UGC creators, you have Billo, you have was it Influi,
mm,
Incense. But I always found that when I was trying to hire UGC editors, UGC creators,
Yeah.
they would just want to get paid for the product. Like it's easy life. Like I loved. I was a UGC creator. I loved that. You just get paid. You talk about the product. That's it.
Yeah.
But we decided to go, okay, let's if you make training videos, if you give them incentives, if you say, hey, look, if the video converts, we pay you out of our pocket, not the client's pocket,
Yeah.
then you start to get just way better talent. And so when you write the scripts and you have a good editor and the creator is great, you just end up getting better creative. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that you also have the same idea with the editors. That's sick.
Yeah. 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 It's yeah, 100%.
I love it. If all your editing tools, editing skills disappeared tomorrow, like that's gone. You don't have it anymore. What will be the first thing that you will rebuild?
That I would rebuild.
Yeah.
So if my skills are gone, that's what you're saying?
Yeah. Your skills are reset. You don't even know how to save on Premiere. But you remembered how important these skills were. What will be the first one that you rebuild? That you relearn?
Hmm. It's a very good question. I would probably first learn how to cut clips together. Just like pick an editing software that's like simple to use, like nothing complicated, nothing crazy, like After Effects, and stuff like that. No, definitely. I would probably go with CapCut or, like something simple as that. CapCut is goated. I still use it to this day. Um, so I would probably do that. And then from there, I would because if all my skills are gone, then I'm pretty much, like back in my high school days. So I would probably need to learn as well, like just some simple stuff of like how to manage clients, how to communicate with, like clients, how to set expectations, and all that stuff, like just like client management side of things, because that's super important. That's more important than people think. And then from
Yeah.
there, just like maybe a bit of sales, how to close clients, how to, like talk on the sales calls, stuff like that. And just like, from there, slowly build up my marketing skills, start focusing on marketing, psychology, and just get better every single day with kind of in every single aspect that I just kind of mentioned.
Yeah. Love that. So for the audience watching, notice how I asked this question and he didn't say, I'm gonna learn how to do motion graphics, I'm gonna learn how to do all these like get all these packs or whatever.
Mm,
He said, I'm gonna cut clips so I understand pacing and how like cut the things that people speak. I use a basic editing software. Then you went straight into client skills and actual things that are revenue generating and
mm,
revenue re- keeping,
yeah,
which I think is really cool. It's a good demonstration of of how you think, which is sick.
yeah.
Cool. The last kind of section, I kind of want to touch on like a little bit of like AI stuff and
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of life, and then we're gonna end with a quick fire round, this or that, which is gonna put you in the spot, which I know you
Okay,
love.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah. So, how do you think AI has disrupted the creative space in general, like just general high level?
Um, I think a lot, to be honest, because everyone that's, not using AI, is gonna be left behind. It's the exact same thing. So like everyone like picture your grandma or your grandpa. I'm like 100% sure they or maybe for like this doesn't relate for like a lot of people. For me it does, because my grandma is like, quite old, but she doesn't use, like phone with a touch screen. She doesn't
Oh
know how
yeah,
to use that. She doesn't have any idea, like how it works, whatever. And so it's gonna be the exact same thing with AI. So like if you don't know how to use like a touch phone today, like imagine all the opportunities and all the things that you're missing out on. So like it's the
yeah,
exact same thing with AI. Imagine if you don't know how AI works. Imagine if you don't know how you can leverage AI within your creative workflow, just like generating clips, just like if you're editing podcasts, just like using AI to cut silences and like small stuff like that. That's just like, super kind of entry level stuff. Like imagine all the like complicated stuff that you could do, actually generate custom B-rolls and I don't know whatnot, AI UGC and stuff like that. Even like product visuals and stuff like that. Those are all the things that someone who is knowledgeable around AI and someone who constantly learns AI is able to do and will continue to do even better. And someone who is just like oh I don't need AI like oh AI can't edit as I can, and that type of mindset,
Yeah.
it's definitely not gonna get you far.
And what would you say is your biggest fear with all of these things coming out? Like all these tools for the content, for visuals, even for marketing, and even as the LLMs get more powerful, what's your biggest fear if you have one?
I honestly don't. I think I'm pretty chill.
Nice, that's cool.
Simply because I understand that the real power and the real leverage actually comes from having knowledge on, like marketing and fundamentals. And when you have that knowledge, when you have experience, and I'm even grateful that I was, bro, like back in the days, I was writing scripts manually. I would open a Google Doc, I would write a script for a video ad. And like nowadays, you just go to Claude, you just go to ChatGPT, hey, give me a script, done, like 3 seconds, boom, let's go. And like before, it used to
Yeah,
take me like 2 hours to, like write a script. And I'm
yeah.
so
Writer's block
grateful.
and
I'm
everything.
actually so grateful for that period because I actually know how to do this stuff manually. And now I kind of have an eye of what's good and what's not good. So I think that's going to be the thing that differentiates people who actually know what they're doing, from the people who don't know what they're doing and they're just spamming stuff with AI. That's kind of my prediction of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, for me it was we were making ads when I was in the Pet Lab Co. In a time before like Ad Spy software has existed,
Yeah,
like Foreplay and Atria.
yeah,
So you would go on the ad library and you search pets and you have to scroll and you find them and you have to open them up.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then you just click the link, you point a Google Doc, you save it, and then later you have to watch it. So but whereas now you have like
Hmm.
stuff that you can see and you can take the transcript and you can copy the transcript over and you can apply it to your product. It's just so
Yeah,
much easier now.
yeah. You pull up
So like
Atria, you have like 500 ads like at your plate.
exactly.
It's yeah.
It's awesome. So I had a fear. What are you most excited about? Like the next stages of AI in the creative space, in the advertising space?
Um, Most excited, like probably like the systems and stuff that people will build with, like all of this stuff coming out. And like um yeah, I'm very excited about basically seeing how people leverage AI in like different ways, if that makes sense. So like I'm never the type of person that's gonna, see something, oh, let me like replicate this one by one for my business, or let me get a template, let me get an 8 in workflow, and plug it into my business. I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person who I see someone like is doing well by, using AI this way, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I could do something similar, or I could adapt it to like my system and my workflow a bit, and make it work for us, if that makes sense. So I'm excited to see like what people build and how they like all the creative ways that people will kind of use AI in the coming months and years. So that's what I'm excited about.
Love it. Just a big playing testing ground for
Yeah,
you.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
cool. Nice. What in terms of like life stuff, I know you're very vocal about your opinions on X, which I love. I think we need more of that.
Hmm.
Um, what's your opinion on the general make money online space?
Yeah, I actually haven't been active on X for a while, just because I've been kind of detoxing. I don't know. I've just been focusing on some different stuff. But yeah, my opinion on like, online money making kind of bubble, I want to say, is I feel like there are two sides of it. One side is, like people who are just consumed by it, and like their only goal is to make money, and their only goal is to, fuel their just like materialism, and just like, um just consume, 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 and just like in this cycle of buying more expensive stuff, like you hit 10K a month, you buy, like maybe some kind of nicer car. You hit 100K a month, you buy, I don't know, Lambo, and just like that cycle keeps going, and it's just like, the toys you buy keep getting bigger and bigger, and like the watches, expensive lifestyle and stuff like that. I'm honestly very vocal, against that. I guess that's what you're referring to, because
Yep.
it just doesn't lead anywhere. Like there's no purpose to that. And honestly, I had a friend who he's a very close friend actually. He like he's the one who actually introduced me to this kind of, online making money making space. I kind of look up to him a lot. And unfortunately, he got consumed by this, and he suffered, pretty hard mental issues actually. Kind of battling with mental health because of it. He was kind of within that group, just like spending money, making a lot of money, spending a lot of money, like expensive stuff. It was just like consuming him, and he burned out pretty fast. Within like 2 or 3 years, he burned out. And when you see something like that happen, you just kind of realize, and you see that doesn't make any sense. And it just doesn't lead anywhere. There's no purpose behind it. So I would say, making money online is definitely like the best thing that happened to me. It's like it's a blessing, honestly. I'm so blessed to have the opportunity that I have, but you just have to be cautious and you have to be careful, to not fall into this trap of just like, consuming and just like
Consumption.
focusing on like materialistic stuff, but actually, on true values. So yeah, that's kind of my comment on that. And I know, like not all of people are like that, and I know that, everyone kind of has their own goals and their own ambitions, which I 100% respect. And it's not like I'm kind of, I have a bias against anyone. I really, want to be in a good relationship, and I truly believe, there is good in every single person in this world. But yeah, that stuff is quite, dangerous if you don't know how to actually go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it a lot in biz ops and people who are learning freelancing skills just for the sake of it because they look up to some influencers or people they see online that kind of show that lifestyle and they maybe are trying to fill a void with it and then they hustle really hard. Maybe they do get success, but then it consumes them as you're saying. So what would you say to somebody who's like maybe on the brink, they're being successful, they have a Pinterest board full of Lamborghinis and Rolexes and nice houses and whatever. What would you say to them to kind of give some advice?
Um, so that's a very good question. I kind of wanted to talk about it anyways, but yeah, that's a doubly question. So I will say, you need to have a long-term vision and you need to have a long-term goal, and you need to have something that you're going towards that is not only materialistic. So like your goal shouldn't be buy a Porsche 911. That's not a goal. That's a thing. That's an object. So like what you should be going towards is something much higher. So you should you should basically find a purpose for yourself. And purpose is going to be different for every single person. Like maybe for someone, purpose is going to be to just like edit nice videos. Okay, respect. You want to perfect your craft. You want to be the best at doing this thing. You have my respect. Someone's purpose is going to be to make enough money so that their family doesn't have to work, so that their kids don't have to work. Okay, that's still kind of tied to money, but that's not materialistic. That's something that you're going towards. That's something that you're building towards. So I would just say have a long-term goal. Just like sit down with yourself, like literally just like sit down, like think, like for an hour, 2, 5, 8, doesn't even matter, and just like try to think. Okay, I'm getting into this online money making space. I have this opportunity. I have time freedom. I have location freedom. What do I actually want to do, and why am I doing this? I think this is like the number one thing that you can do is just like find your why and find your like why are you chasing, like more money? Why are you chasing more clients? Why are you chasing all this stuff? And when you find your why and you actually believe in that why, and that actually kind of serves purpose in your life, then it's gonna be easier to stay in this game long term because like even me, like I'm at this position, and it's like whatever, I'm making like I'm like very comfortable. I'm living, very very comfortably, if that makes sense. I'm making, I don't want to say how much money, and like I would trade that right now, for some values that I respect, for my family and for stuff like that. I would trade it tomorrow. I would just like drop everything if I had to for my family, for the stuff that I actually, uphold and trust in, if that makes sense. So if you don't have something like that, I can guarantee you you'll burn out, and like consumerism and materialism will just be the end of you.
Absolutely. I completely get that. And
Yeah.
in how did you come about this kind of thought process? What was it that motivated you to think this way? So I'm assuming at some point you didn't have the success you have now. But you're probably hustling and grinding. Maybe you had a Pinterest with Ferraris and Rolexes. Maybe I don't know. Maybe not. But what made you change, or maybe not even just get to this mindset?
I would honestly say, I think not a lot of people would be, proud to say this, but I would say I was raised in like a very kind of traditional values family. So I really look up to my mom and dad. I really, appreciate them kind of teaching me everything that I know, and kind of instilling these values inside of me, if that makes sense. Because yeah, without them, I
Hmm.
wouldn't be where I am now. So I just want to do, everything that I can to, give back to them. And this is just like my way of giving back to them, and that's probably like the biggest thing, honestly.
Beautiful. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, last question before we get into the quick fire round. What's next for you?
Um, Next for me, probably just like continue doing what I'm doing. I was just, chatting with Spencer, my partner, on like a podcast that we recorded, I think a month ago, something like that, and we ended on like this thing that we're doing, we just love doing it. We just love doing marketing. And like we kind of talk about this, like talk about exiting and stuff like that. And every single time when we have that discussion, we're like, bro, we will be doing this in like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, maybe even 30 years from now, because we just love it. And we're just in the trenches, and that's our zone of genius, and that's what we enjoy doing. I can't imagine, maybe exiting a business or something and then just chilling, for the rest of my life. I'll probably just like find another side project and work on something. So next for me is just like continue doing what I'm doing, continue getting even better, expanding my skills, expanding my knowledge, just like being, a student of the game. That's next, and then yeah, just like I'll see what kind of happens from that, and kind of what ventures I decide to go into.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that you guys are like even considering like not selling because you love the stuff, the work you do so much, the craft. Other people will be like, yeah, let me get that
Yeah,
sale. Maybe it was like grow an agency and then I'll sell it.
yeah.
Um, love that, man. Super cool. Conscious of time though, but quick fire round, 9 questions. It's this or that.
So I just
You
say
just
this
say
or
which one
that.
it is. But yeah, you say, for example, cat or dog. You say dog. You know,
Okay,
paper or scissors. You say paper.
okay,
All right,
okay.
cool. They're all being marketing related. I promise you.
Nice.
Last time I did a clip of this and it did really well. So okay, cool. We'll start. So hook or body,
Hook.
Chat GPT or Claude,
Claude.
RAS or CPA,
Roaz.
one winning ad or hundreds to test,
One winning at
good editor or good copywriter,
copywriter.
school or WAP,
WAP.
copy winning ad or test new concepts,
Mm, Test new concepts.
Metro or TikTok,
Meta.
hook rate or click through rate.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll say hook rate.
Nice, cool, awesome. That was the 9.
Cool.
Um, dude, I really appreciate the time with you. You have a lot of knowledge. You're very wise. You're like an old wise man here telling us all these things. And I really appreciate it. Where can people learn from you more, find you, ask any questions?
You can find me on X. That's where I kind of post most of my stuff. I recently started a YouTube channel. I know I need to be more, consistent with posting. That's the problem everyone's facing. But yeah, X, and that's pretty much it.
Love that. Awesome. So I'll leave those links down below for everybody. Thanks, Carlo. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
appreciate you inviting me as well.